Welcome back to Nova Talk. After episode 1, we're narrowing the map and asking a more disciplined question in the US story. What counts as real progress and what gets overstated once headlines, partnerships, and infrastructure announcements start blending together? This episode follows the evidence through DTCC, tokenization, Ripple as regulatory path, and the Clarity Act with the hype stripped out. Quick note before we get into it. This is for education, not financial advice, so always do your own research and make your own decisions. To understand why DTCC matters, you have to start with where it sits. This is core US market infrastructure, not a side experiment at the edge. Its depository arm, DTC, is central to custody and post-trade processing for an enormous share of US securities activity. So when tokenization touches this layer, the signal is different from a random crypto pilot. You're looking at the plumbing of the existing system. That doesn't mean instant transformation. It does mean the conversation is happening inside institutions that actually matter to settlement and record keeping. In plain English, the December 2025 SEC staff no action letter said staff would not recommend enforcement if DTC operated this specific tokenization service as described. That matters because it reduces uncertainty around one concrete institutional design, and markets pay attention when regulatory friction starts to narrow. But the limit matters just as much. This was not a blanket SEC blessing for tokenized securities, crypto markets, or every future implementation. It's a narrow staff position tied to a defined fact pattern. Real progress, yes. Unlimited approval, no. At the simplest level, tokenization means taking a real financial asset and representing it in a digital form that systems can process more directly. The asset is still the point. What's changing is how ownership is recorded, how transfers move, and how settlement can be coordinated. So instead of treating digital rails as decoration on top of the old model, institutions are exploring whether the workflow itself can be redesigned. That's why tokenization keeps coming up around efficiency, transparency, and operational design. It's not just about putting an asset on a new screen. The timeline is one reason this story feels more concrete. Limited production trades are planned for July 2026, with a broader launch target in October. There are also more than 50 firms involved, which tells you this is being explored across a real institutional network, not by one company in isolation. Ripple Prime becomes relevant here through Hidden Road and the broader web of participants connected to evolving market infrastructure. Still, relevance is not the same as outcome. Being connected to the project does not mean XRP is being adopted inside the flow. The honest reading is that Ripple is adjacent to serious infrastructure experimentation. That's notable on its own, even before any token demand claims enter the picture. This is the line that really matters. Being in the room is not the same thing as your token being the thing institutions need to use. Institutional participation can signal access, relevance, and credibility without proving XRP demand, settlement dependence, or broad Wall Street adoption. So the anti-hype position is simple. Respect the progress, but don't smuggle in conclusions the evidence hasn't earned. Another real signal came in December 2025 when the OCC conditionally approved Ripple National Trust Bank. The key word is conditional. That means progress through a regulatory pathway, not a completed destination. What it does tell you is that Ripple is pursuing regulated infrastructure in a serious way, and regulators are engaging that path through formal process. Again, that's meaningful without needing to exaggerate it. A conditional approval is evidence of pursuit and traction, not proof that everything is finished. Then there's the Clarity Act, which matters because it's aimed at market structure rather than just headline politics around crypto. It has moved through the House, and it has also made progress through the Senate Banking Committee, which makes this more than a talking point. That said, progress in the legislative process is not the same as final law. The distinction matters if you're trying to stay honest about where things stand. So this belongs in the real progress column, but in pencil, not ink. It shows motion toward clearer rules, not a settled endpoint. So the honest US picture looks like this. Regulatory pathways are opening, institutions are testing tokenized infrastructure, and Ripple is genuinely in the mix. What we do not have is evidence for a broad Wall Street XRP adoption story. That's the line between progress and exaggeration. Next time, we'll take the map outward and compare what Japan, Europe, and Australia might tell us that the US story still can't.